and welcome to Busting NeoFraus Podcast. It is the only podcast for female fraud professionals and their allies who want to stay on top of the fraud awareness spectrum in order to thrive professionally while maximizing their happiness and having the courage to create the life they love. Thank you for listening.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the NeoFraus Podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me. This is Laura Richards. She will be sharing with us very important insights. But without further ado, I'd like to first and foremost give her the floor to introduce herself to the listeners. Hi, Laura.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk to your listeners. I've been listening to some of your episodes, so thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Laura, so much. It's my absolute pleasure to have you on the show and to provide the opportunity to the listeners to learn about your unique perspectives.
Yes.
And so before we do that, I'd like to just ask you briefly to say a couple words about yourself, who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Laura, and I'm a podcaster. And before that, I was actually a speech therapist. And in 2020, decided to stay home and not do speech therapy anymore because my mother had passed away, and it was very traumatizing for me. And then also during the pandemic, my sister-in-law also passed away. So I had some really, crazy things happened during the pandemic and all that, like we all did, but it was just, so I've been making some life changes. I have 3 grown children. I'm recently not, I don't even want to say recently anymore. I got divorced last year from someone I believe is a narcissist. And so I started a podcast to have discussions with women and to help them share their stories. And one of the reasons, and we can get into this, but one of the reasons was because I felt very alone talking about these situations. And, even from your line of work, people feel ashamed when things happen to them, right? Or they get in situations that things happen to them. A lot of people can feel ashamed. And that's how I felt. And so I started this podcast to start helping other people talk about their stories that they've been through.
Thank you so much, Laura, for sharing this information with the audience and simply giving the intro to our conversation.
Sure.
So I'm very curious to do this parallel comparison and perhaps a lot of crossing points between narcissists and fraud, because
right.
it comes to manipulation, right?
It does.
Manipulation.
It really does.
And also a lot of people fall into those types of romance scams, pig butchering scams, cult
Yes,
scams.
exactly.
And I think there is some crossing points there.
Yes.
Same for being in a relationship with someone, even though
Right.
it isn't a romance scam. It's part
Right.
of life, but still has a lot of commonalities. So if you could,
Yes.
share your thoughts on that and perhaps throw in your story a little bit. I don't know, whatever
Sure, of
you
course.
feel like
Sure.
doing it.
Yeah, it's so strange. I was married for 32 years, and of course I got married when I was younger, so I was 22, I think, 22 or 23 when I got married. So I was young, right? And so we don't even have a fully formed brain at that time. And so what I have found in my healing journey is that we make decisions for any decision that we make today. We make decisions based on our life experiences, our childhood, the way we were brought up, things that we've learned. And so I got married, I trusted him and everything, and things were not amazing because after a while I was like, this guy's kind of, well, I didn't think this right away, but he just wouldn't be very nice, or he everything was difficult. Gosh, like everything was so difficult. And so for years and years and years, I did therapy and all the things I did, and he did therapy. It wasn't until the last few years that this happened when my mother passed away. And why I brought that story up was because, so we can use the word narcissist because it explains his behavior. I'm not diagnosing him with narcissistic personality disorder, but I'm just explaining, his behavior. And so you can use the word narcissist for that. So I just started noticing certain things. And with a narcissist, they have a lack of empathy. And also they were stunted really in childhood because it comes from emotional neglect. So often, when we go through life, right, you have those people in your life, maybe that are cranky or they're rude, even a boss at work or something, right? They're rude to you. We try to remember, okay, they have issues. There's something going on. So that's the thing with the narcissist is, okay, I understood. Of course, I met his mother, of course I get it. Yeah, she's cold. I get it, but because she has her own trauma she didn't deal with. And I get it. But I just thought, well, we work on our marriage. That's what you do. And when my mother passed away, he didn't know what to do because they don't have any empathy. They really don't. They're almost like robots at this point because they've been emotionally neglected. Despite what we've done as adults, that's what they don't know how to function. They're kind of stunted in childhood. And so it kind of our marriage started falling apart. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard because I was always trying. And then he was saying words like, yeah, let's keep trying and things are going to get better. And then nothing would get better. And people will have to go listen to the podcast to hear all the stories. But, it's terrible. So how this relates to all fraud and scams and everything is that there's a person who's saying one thing and doing another, right? And so that's the problem because if we have integrity, okay, I don't know you, but you're doing this kind of business. So I'm guessing you have integrity. You have integrity. You want other people to know about frauds and scams and people who do things that they shouldn't. And I'm the same way. And so when we're say you have a difficult boss, I have a difficult ex-husband, right? I'm trying to talk to him from my perspective, like he's me, like he has integrity, like I do, like he wants to try. But they don't want to. And they just say the words because they think they should. And they're also manipulative and deceitful. And they want their cake and eat it too, right? They want everything. So I started figuring it out and would say to him, I think you're gaslighting me. And so and you don't say that kind of stuff to a narcissist. So gaslighting is really like this way of lying to you to make you feel bad for something maybe you didn't even do. Like maybe your boss will call you difficult, or when you're being manipulated into anything, a cult or anything, they'll tell you, you really need this. And maybe you start believing it. Oh, yes, I am difficult and I really do need this thing. And yeah, maybe I did cause the problem. And if you have low self-esteem, that's what I had, then they gravitate towards you. Unfortunately, people who are scammers and, fraudsters, they go after the people who will let them. They can smell us. They can smell us. So that's for sure. They can find us, so it wasn't easy. But I decided to leave after 32 years. It was 33 together. And I'm okay with it, because I know that I did everything I could. And so when I talk about the word narcissist, and I want to encourage everybody who's listening to think about what kind of abuse or scam or anything that you've been through. So he didn't physically beat me, so I don't have to heal in that way. But he manipulated me and I had a lot of mind games. So I had psychological warfare, and so that's how I'm learning how to go through therapy, learning how to heal. And when I look up, when I talk to therapists or I talk to coaches or I talk to other people, I can get their perspective and they can help me. Right. And so if you get in some other scam, you're going to want to speak to people who are good and they're professionals in that area so that you can move forward in the way that you need help. There's no point in me telling you how to get out of a credit card scam if you had a different kind of scam. You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense. So that's what I've been trying to do in this last year with, I just started my podcast a few months ago, but just in this last year, healing and talking to people. Because, we need community, right? We need community to talk.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for sharing that, because that brings this very important point and topic for the listeners out there to know what kind of tools they need to have in order not only prevent themselves from something like that, scams and manipulations, but also how to get out and how to heal from it. So thanks so much for bringing all those points. What comes to mind right now to me when you were talking about exiting your relationship is that a few years ago, when I was working for a financial institution, the CEO brought up an excellent culture coach, and he was giving us a talk. When I say us, I mean all 500 employees of the company. And so that coach was amazing. His theory was fantastic in my opinion, and I think it can be applied very well into practice, and it is actually good. With all his large corporations clients that he's had. But the point I'm trying to make here is that one of the formulas that coach brought up, and I will never forget it because it's simple, but it's, I guess, very effective. And you tell me, what do you think? So the formula is the following.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Whenever there is a problem or situation or an issue, the formula is called ACE.
Okay.
First step you do is A, which stands for accept, which means if you have an issue, try to see if you can just accept it and just start living with it, and see if you can, basically, if it's possible, right?
Yes.
Then, if you determine that it's impossible to accept it, especially, manipulations and draining your energy and things like that, then you move to the next step, which is C, and it stands for change. Now, it's a good idea to come up with tools and ways to change the situation, improve the situation in any way possible. Now, if that's impossible, the last one is E, exit.
Yes.
That's it.
Right. Well, it is true, because some things, especially like when you're in a workplace, there are things that you're going to deal with toxic people, and there are things you just have to accept it. Okay, that person, I only have to see them for an hour or whatever, or I mean, unless they're being, really directly abusive to you. And if it's just that somebody's cranky and you don't enjoy their company, I think that's okay. And I think in my marriage, I think that there was a place where I did it for so long. I did it for 30 years or so, before I started going, wait, there's an issue here. It took me a minute to wake up, but I do believe in love. I believe in marriage. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that was where I was with my healing. And so that's true. I like that idea of, can you accept it? Well, I did accept it. Right. And we all have that choice every day. Can we live with this? And so, and then if not, and I think change needs to come. Well, I mean, you can make yourself unoffendable and easy to put up with things, but not abuse. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was just getting to the point where it wasn't going to work, because I was willing to change and put up with things. People who are toxic manipulators, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. So if even in friendships, think about your friendships there, they never call you or they never ask about you. It's always one-sided. Those relationships they don't fill you up, right? They don't make you feel like, yeah, I want to go to lunch with that person, because they don't care about you. And so that's why it's important.
Thank you, Laura, for bringing this, because to mind comes this story of mine many, many years ago when I moved to Africa from Europe. Of course, I missed all of my colleagues and friends.
Yes,
And
yes.
so Christmas time came along. And before Christmas, because I missed, all of my communities so much, I decided to send postcards, to all of my
Yeah.
great, great, great friends and connections. And so here's my story. I sent out 80
Yeah.
Christmas cards
Yeah.
and received back 2.
Oh my gosh, that's painful.
Yeah, but it's a great lesson,
It
and
is.
then
I mean, not everybody sends Christmas cards and we can't be offended all the time, but it makes you wonder how much effort you put in compared to your friends, right? And so maybe next year you don't send Christmas cards because I mean, I can't imagine that probably took you a lot of money too, not to mention time because you're sending it from so far away.
yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, we do have to weigh, right? Can
yeah,
we accept it or do we need to change it or do we need to exit? And exit maybe not doesn't necessarily mean the friendship,
yeah,
but it might mean or whatever or the marriage, but it might mean that, if it's so bad that there's no accepting it and there's no changing it. And that's exactly where I got to because people do ask me, how did you decide? My God, I was there 33 total. Like I was there 33 years. It wasn't like an overnight decision. And even when you leave a job or any of those things, you're not going to do that overnight. You're going to weigh your options and those things. And my therapist had said to me, and I thought this was very helpful, are they unwilling to change or are they unable to change? Because some people maybe physically are unable to change for whatever reason, or are they unwilling? And I had decided, no, my husband is not willing to change. He physically could. I've seen him know things and change and be a decent human being. And he can't do that with me. So, and so then you make the decision, but I thought that was very helpful from my therapist. So,
thanks so much for sharing this detail. And that brings me to one question for you. What kind of strategy could you briefly share, maybe high level or the way
yeah.
you feel sharing is to the audience in order for them to watch out for signals
Yes.
of those
Well,
manipulators? We're gonna put
yes.
them all into one bucket, all manipulators, scammers,
Yes.
and
Yes. And there you go. And so, what you're going to find is if you think they're lying, you just have to be aware. No. Okay. So I'm going to do it from two different sides. But the first thing is if you catch someone in a lie, okay, if you catch someone in a lie and then they deny it, then you have to remember if you keep giving them the chance, they will keep doing it. Okay. So that's in a friendship, that's in a marriage, that's in anything. And so manipulators will always push as far as they can. They're going to keep trying to manipulate you as long as you let them. So you have to be aware. And this is the thing for me that has helped with myself is healing. So learning who you are. I know this is going to sound weird, especially if you come from a different scamming point of view, but hear me out. This is important.
Yeah.
When you love yourself and when you can, when you're healthy that way, you won't allow certain things. Okay. You won't allow it. You won't be like, when someone is telling you, you have to give me this, or you have to send me $500 right now, or whatever the scam is. No, I don't. I can stop and think about it. And, that's the thing is when you love yourself and you're working on your self-worth, then you won't allow things. It doesn't mean they can't happen. I'm just saying that was the most important thing for me. So now I'm more aware of the way things happen with manipulators because I allowed it. I know why I allowed it, because I wanted to be liked and loved and all the things. Now, of course, I still want that, but now I know where my boundaries are. And I don't have to say yes to everything, and I don't have to allow everything. So that's just what helped me.
Well, thanks so much, Laura. I think
You're
your
welcome.
tips and information is very valuable for anyone listening to our wonderful conversation, and also important. I know we tried laughing, but to think about it, the topic is actually horrible and very
Ugh.
serious.
It really is. I laugh when I think about some of the things, because when you think back, of course, I mean, if we've lived on this earth any amount of time, we can think back to any of the dumb things we've done in our life and we can laugh about it. But that comes with healing.
Yeah.
That comes when you've done some healing and you're a little bit more removed. I wasn't laughing a year ago, but I am now. So, so it's okay. Look, I just went to Europe. I just went to Europe a couple of weeks ago, and I actually had my phone stolen away from me. Okay. So it can happen to anybody, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't let it ruin everything, and it was fine. They didn't get anything else. They just got my phone. No big deal, right? Like at the time. But I'm just saying, even when you're doing the work, things can happen. But what I didn't let it do is ruin me. I wanted to go home. I was like, I'm going home. No, but I didn't. I'm like, I just bought this beautiful trip to Europe. Of course I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
And so it can happen to anybody, but it's okay. I can look back now and laugh and go like, oh my gosh, I was so dumb. They just took advantage of me because they saw I was the target. So that's okay. And now I know better. Right. And so the next time I know better.
Yeah.
Live and learn.
Yeah, no, if you think about it, examples like that from life can be compared, to more important situations such as relationships and manipulative people.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
but
You got to be aware.
Yeah.
And you have to live and learn. I'm not saying walk around this world not trusting anybody, but we just need to be aware. Not everybody is on our side, especially when you don't know somebody. So just be careful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura, for being a wonderful guest on our show. I'm sure the audience will enjoy listening to all the tips and information from your story, your insights, but also the good energy with all the laughs that we had.
Well, even though it's a hard subject, I love talking about it because I want people to know they're not alone, in their relationships, their toxic. I've worked it all, toxic work environments. I've been scammed, everything, you know what I mean? So it's life and you're not alone. And so we're here to provide information. That's what I talk about on my podcast, and you're doing it on your podcast. We're here to help you. So that way you don't feel like you're alone.
Absolutely. And absolutely well said, Laura, and a wonderful end to our episode.
Good.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. Stay healthy and happy. Bye-bye.